You can book appointments, you have smart search results. I did a couple of examples there. Please, next. Next. Next, please. Okay, so how do I start? I'm sure you're probably very excited now, maybe not very excited, I'm sorry. But how do we start? So before we start then, we need to touch on some issues. So I mentioned, in my slides, I mentioned 4 core issues, which is the talents, AI talents, funding, then we talk about data, then the idea that people still think artificial intelligence is a buzzword. So can you next? So if you like, there's this McKinsey paper which touched on the problem of AI talents, the shortage of AI talents actually. So we can see from this that big tech companies are buying AI startups, and they're not just buying it for the startup themselves, for the startup products, but they're actually buying for the talent the startup processes. So that tells you that we have about 10,000 AI-related jobs that needs to be filled, and then we don't have enough talent for that. And this is a huge problem, because that also means that these companies are going to, they're outsourcing, they're going outside their comfort zone just to gather talent. We have professors from university being poached by companies, and maybe most of these professors are going to companies like Amazon, like Facebook, like Uber to do their sabbatical because of the advent of artificial intelligence and the requirements for us to build AI systems. So can you please, I'm done. Oh, 2 more minutes. Okay, I'm just going to skip all my slides and talk about AI Saturday Lagos. As I mentioned, I'm an ambassador for AI Saturdays, and because of the problem of AI talent, we realized that we needed to start doing something about it. We know artificial intelligence is the future, and it promises to solve a lot of problems in healthcare, education, fintech, retail. You know, you could build smart systems that can help with customer recommendation. You could infer, you could understand much more from your data sets. And we need to start moving in that direction, data-based. Like Andrew would say that data is the new electricity. So at AI Saturday Lagos, we decided that we're going to start going through structured learning. So we started our cohort in January, which we ran for 4 months, from January to April. That was 16 weeks of structured studies. So we went through Stanford Open Source CS231N, its Introduction to Computer Vision. And then we did a number of projects as a community. 1 minute, sorry. Then we did a number of projects, that was the first cohort. And we are very proud to announce that because of the progress we've seen so far, we're going into the next cohort in August, which is another 14 weeks. So AI Saturday is a global initiative, and then we have it all over, we have it in 8 cities in Nigeria. AI Saturday Ibadan is also going to start in August. We have in Abuja, we have in Ogbomoso, and I can share my slide and you can check it online, nurture.ai/AI Saturdays. So I guess I'm going to have to talk about the rest of it. I hope you ask me questions, then I get to talk more. Thank you.
Please give her a round of applause. Thank you very much. Please, in fact, I learned a lot of things, even when I'm not a front-end developer, but I'm a back-end. Yes, I have learned so much that the machine intelligence is taking over the natural intelligence. So while we can amass all our questions and observations regarding this paper, we will await the next speaker so that we can harness all our questions together and maybe make a very reasonable discussion on those papers. This where is the next speaker? Oh, the next speaker is on his way. Have you got your slide? Because he was complaining of his slide. Okay. The next speaker is Mr. Victor Idono on cybersecurity. Please, thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. All protocols observed. This afternoon, I'm Victor Idono by name, a cybersecurity professional. I've been into cybersecurity for quite a while. Studied cybersecurity as a course, 5 years course from Federal University of Technology, Minna. This afternoon, I want to be speaking on the topic cybersecurity as a disruptor for technologies, for tremendous inclusion opportunities. Let us get practical. What do we really mean by this? Before now, there have been cybersecurity exclusion in Nigeria, not just Nigeria, in Africa. What do that mean? There have not really been any segment harnessing the effect and the skills of the youth towards cybersecurity and how to legitimately utilize these skills possessed by these young persons. Permit me to start by articulating my conclusions. And the first will be digital inclusion isn't just for Silicon Valley, but it's not about just Silicon Valley and developed countries. It's all about people. It's all about economies of nations. Next is, as technology continues to evolve, it also brings the ever greater threat by very nature of the opportunities it presents. It's become the focal point for cybercrime, industrial espionage, and cyber attacks. This as a result of different technologies evolving on a daily basis. While it brings greater threat, Nigeria can be at the forefront of cybersecurity innovations. The flip side of risk is enormous opportunities it brings. While all of these threats arises, there is also opportunities in this. How well can we harness these opportunities? How well can we key into them via cybersecurity inclusion? The next point will be cybersecurity is now perceived by tech professionals as the biggest potential disruptor the tech industry over the next 5 years. Therefore, I'll call on all stakeholders, ministries, and agencies to get practical and harness the opportunities of cybersecurity inclusion at all levels to disrupt or risk being disrupted. There should be IT specialization, skill acquisition in information and cybersecurity such that people develop, innovate, create, and service the critical IT infrastructures so that we do not need to continue to import, be it software, hardware, or IT services. It is useful to highlight some of the definitions that we have in this context. And some of the definitions which I'll be looking at this evening will be, first, is digital inclusion. What is digital inclusion? It is defined as the ability of individuals and groups to access and use information and communication technologies, that is ICT. Digital inclusion encompasses not only access to internet, also the availability of hardware and digital literacy skills required for effective of information and computer technologies. Digital transformation isn't just about technology. People also need to be transformed. We'll be talking about digital transformation, digital inclusion. Technologies are evolving on a daily basis. How about the people? Are we actually transforming ourselves? Are the youths engaged or involved in these evolutions? Are we being trained? Are we developing ourselves to harness effectively the technologies that are evolving on a daily basis? If no, then it's something we need to look into. Cybersecurity. What is cybersecurity? It is the protection of internet-connected systems, including hardware, software, data, applications, etc., against cyber attacks. Then we talk about ICT, which is information communication technology, which is the study of business of developing and using technologies to process information and communications. We also talk about cybercrime. Cybercrime refers to computer-related crime, which is use of computer or computer hardware to commit any crime. The computer may be used as an attacker or it may be a victim. It is a cybercrime when such occurs. Then economic development. In economic development, it is the growth of standard living of nations, people from a low income to a high level income. Changes in job market started centuries long before now. Businesses are changing, job opportunities are changing. We started over 100 of centuries ago. The kind of jobs available to us about 100 years ago is no longer the kind of jobs we are exposed to now. Why? Technologies are evolving on a daily basis. The ancient ways of attending to businesses is gradually fading away. There are many initiatives for smart cities, but we also need smart citizens. Without smart citizens, without smart people, without smart skills, all of these technologies will overwhelm us and we won't be able to effectively utilize them. The major disruptors in nations are the world's largest experiment for digitalization. Today are the youths, mobile, and broadband. In other words, the youths are the way forward, the mobiles, and the broadband. With these three, any nation, any economy can move effectively to the next level if these three are effectively utilized. Information and communication technologies have become critical catalysts for sustainable development of every economy. Every economy talks about IT, every economy talks about digital inclusion, but how well are we, effectively harnessing these skills? As technology continues to evolve, also do opportunities and challenges it provides. We are over crossroads as we move from society already entwined with internet to coming of age. Just as technology brings the ever benefits, it also brings ever greater threats by very nature. As technologies are evolving, of course, the threats are also important. The threats are also there. How can we mitigate against the threat and harness the opportunities it comes with? Arguably, cybersecurity was the most talked about topic in technology due to the announcement of a number of high-profile hacks and cyber attacks, with the number of cyber attacks set to cost organizations $2.1 trillion globally. Widening range attacks such as ransomware, distributed denial of services, malware attacks, etc. The result of cybersecurity is now perceived as tech professionals as the biggest potential disruptor to the industry. The next 5 years, Nigeria must therefore get practical in cybersecurity capacity building in all levels to disrupt or risk being disrupted. There have been huge innovations in the area of artificial intelligence, space colonization, blockchain, high-speed internet travel, blockchain technology, advanced virtual reality, renewable energy, and the likes. All is as a result of cybersecurity and digital inclusion. Cybersecurity has become part of our daily activities in all spheres of life, in all industries, ranging from the manufacturing, the production, the food processing, the agro, name it. Any industry, cybersecurity is relevant in one way or the other, just as the chart is indicating on the screen. Is technology taking your job? Is a question we must ask ourselves. Are we, because I've found out that a lot of persons are scared that over time, technology is going to take over their jobs. Is it really true? If no, let's find out. Are you the disruptor or the disrupted? It's something we also need to know. Cybersecurity is about creating solutions. Let's get practical. Do you know that everyone cannot be IT expert, but specify but specifically, some persons are not digitally literate. It means that they are not empowered to face challenges and opportunities in the digital era. Technology is changing for how we live and how to create awesome opportunities. Technology have slowly taken an essential part of people's day-to-day activity. The invention of computer was a very important point. Communication is thus enhanced. Today, technology has made a whole lot of things come into existence. Even in the cyber field, in the cyber war, there is a new trend now where the wars are no longer being fought on just physical weapons, but there's a new chain, a new line of action where the cyber guys, the cyber security skilled personnel are involved in the process. This is an opportunity in the industry where hackers are now being deployed even in government and military operations. These opportunities can only be on the increase thanks to rapid advance in the field of robotics, driverless transport, artificial intelligence, etc. 10 jobs that didn't exist in the last 10 years. We have examples of them. One of them is apps developer, social media manager, and a whole lot of others.
Mr. Victor.
Now we now have a pen tester, we now have network administrator, malware analyst, all as a result of cybersecurity inclusion. There are opportunities. In conclusion, to see if your skill is still vulnerable to surviving the next 5 years, simply ask yourself these 5 questions. Can software application or a robot handle any of the skill that I perform in my role? If you ask yourself, and if it's a yes, then there's a problem for you.
You have exceeded your time. Yes, sir. Please, 1 minute now.
All right, thank you. So practical demonstrations in the interactive session. By the time we ask ourselves those 5 questions I just showed us, you would actually determine if your current job will sustain the next 5 years or a robot is going to take hold of it. And if your answer is going to be yes, that is, you're going to lose your job likely to a robot or an application or one evolving technology, then you should also look at the area of skill empowerment and cybersecurity inclusion, which entails a whole lot of trainings, a whole lot of skill development, a whole lot of skill acquisition in the area of cybersecurity, and learn how to also prepare yourself towards being a disruptor Victor, instead of getting disrupted.
You have exceeded your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. The cybersecurity paper is a very large one. We don't expect you to exhaust all the paper in 10 minutes. But I think due to time constraint, we may have to cut you short. Yeah. So please, the next speaker is Andrew Agbu, who will be discussing youth innovation and disruptive technology, the ongoing initiative in Nigeria and the way forward. Please go on.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good evening. May I stand on already existing protocols? My name is Abu Andrew. I work for Young Innovators of Nigeria. Young Innovators of Nigeria is a social movement. We develop startup ecosystem across Nigeria. We've been involved in a lot of training and mentorship for startups and young people over 5 years. So today I'm going to be talking about what we've been doing to foster disruptive technologies in Nigeria, ongoing initiative, the role of young people, taking cognizance that young people have a key role to play in the era of digital technology and disruptive technology. If you look at statistics today, what we have in Nigeria, it is projected that by the year 2050, Nigeria is going to be the 3rd most populous country in the world. And our population is largely youth-based. So what capacity are we developing for these young people? I'm going to be talking on what we've been doing and what we intend to do and what stakeholders should do to enable us to develop more capacity for young people within the coming years. Next slide, please. Next slide. All right. Haven't noticed that young people are going to be the ones driving this technology, because we are born in the technology age. For the people that were born within 2000 below, they are called the millennium children. Those guys are the geeks of today. People that they give birth to in the last 2-3 years, they are called crypto children. So we have to start developing those people, their capacity. Bearing that in mind, the young people are key to the following community development. We need to mentor the young people more. We need to build more ecosystem that will support their development, training, and having in mind that these young people, a lot of them have crazy ideas in them. So we need to unleash that crazy ideas in the minds of these young people. But from how do we commercialize these ideas? How do we move from making this, change from these ideas to impact? So there are a lot of processes involved. One, from the family, our parents, they need to understand that every child is born with talent, and we need to start developing this talent from small. That is why at Young Innovators of Nigeria, we've concentrated in building capacity for young people as low as primary school. Every holidays we do this summer camps and holiday lessons for children to learn coding, AI, for them to just start with some few knowledge of mathematics background and how we can develop them further. So we move step by step. So at the undergraduate level, we've been able to do a lot of campus connect for the young people, the programming clubs across the university. But we saw that there's a disconnected approach towards capacity building in the university. A lot of people are doing their things in different silos. So we look at connecting the ecosystem together, building an open innovation ecosystem that we share resources, we share strength. Next slide, please. We share resources, we do mentorship. So we've come up with some initiatives. Next slide. All right. So we look at what we can do and what other people can also do. So I have these petals that we've looked at it, and we saw that these are different actors working together to ensure that we develop capacity to build disruptive technology for our young people. We looked at the academia, which is a very, very vital part of capacity building for young people. The academia is not in line with what the industry is looking for. So there's a need to create a synergy between the academia and the industry. There's a need for knowledge platforms and partnership. We look at the current models for internship within the university. A lot of people find it very difficult to get internship opportunities in companies, tech companies. A little of our tech companies do offer those opportunities, and we are advising stakeholders to take more students on an internship. Let them come and learn, develop their capacity while on their 6 months, 8 months training, so that when they go back to the university, they could be able to work with fellow students to develop projects that they can create jobs for themselves. We're looking at the public agencies. NIDA have been able to do some few initiatives like the startup clinics, the future hack, and we need more agencies to key into them, because one agency alone of government cannot do everything. So we need little partnership from such MDAs to even open up the innovation ecosystem. And we found out that most startups suffer a lot in Nigeria, and they die maybe as low as 1 year as 1 year. Okay, I have 2 minutes left. Next slide, please. Okay. We have discovered that indigenous ICT innovation is at infancy level in Nigeria. That means there's a lot of opportunities that's still in the ecosystem for indigenous ICT innovation to ensure digital inclusion. All right. If you look at the statistics before you, you see that our population as of 2017 is at 184.6 million. Internet users are about 97.2 million people. Internet penetration is about 53%. If you glance through that, you see that there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of untapped opportunities in the ecosystem. And these opportunities can only be utilized if we develop a lot of capacity for our people. Look at some examples of local disruptive technology. Look at the transport system. We have Taxify, we have Uber. This is something that was conceived by young people, and you see how technology is changing our life. We can look at the agricultural sector. We look at BitDrone. BitDrone is using AI, using drones to deliver equipment to farm. I think what they do basically is they use drones to spray herbicides to the farms. Agromate, they use AI and data analytics to do extension service to farmers, farm crowding. Then we look at WeCircular at the environmental sector. WeCircular is enabling us recycle waste, e-waste. Instead of polluting the water, they take the waste. They are using technology to aid human existence in the world. So we're looking at budget, at tracker, citizen engagement, and civil advocacy. These people use AI data analytics to change the way we live today, to give us information. Those are concepts developed by young people, and they are employing a lot of young people to get this data from them. And there's a lot of opportunities in that ecosystem, and we've not even fully harnessed the opportunities in the disruptive technology ecosystem. So we looked at models that we can use to develop more capacity for young people to be able to harness disruptive technologies in the way that we will benefit, our local communities will benefit from it. So we're looking at innovation ecosystem that is built on trust, shared vision, collaboration, because those silos of communication, they need to talk to each other. Lagos ecosystem need to talk to Kano ecosystem and Abuja ecosystem. So far, we've been able to create initiatives like the Startup Arewa, Startup Southwest, Startup Northeast to collaborate so that we can share resources, we can learn together. But a lot still need to be done. So when we look backward a bit, we can see what we've been able to do in developing indigenous ecosystem for ICT innovation. We have to notice that ICT is a tool that should be open for all sectors of the community for us to make competitive impact across board.
Time is off.
Next slide. So when you look at this picture, you see that within us, within our villages, within our society, this picture that you're seeing depict the reality of what we see today. And you see that in the midst of plenty, there's so much challenges around us. So it's time for us to think deep, look inward, and see how we can use technologies that are around us to change the way we live our life today. You can see that our problems are our biggest assets. So we can try and use technology to solve our problem. So I think my slides are off. So, okay. So what we're going to do now is to try and experiment. We need to invest in crazy ideas. We need to measure, and we need to learn. It's a triangle that we need to keep repeating to achieve what we need to do at the at the level of developing capacity for young people. We can see what PAGA is doing to create an inclusiveness between people in the rural area and people at the urban areas. So what we're doing is that we're trying to use technology to bridge the digital inclusion. So these are examples of what young people are doing. You can see FICO is also doing the same thing. There's also a Uber version of taxi in Nigeria. Then there's this big example I always give, recyclers. Recyclers, they are helping Lagos remove a lot of waste from the society. Then there's this very favorite one I have, this
I'm afraid it's time.
academia. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before I hand you over to the discussion, Mr. Temitope or Sundari, and I think I want to really analyze some few things here. The most interesting part of this session is that all these papers were presented by young people. And I think in line with the concept of the Nigerian Computer Society, that the secret of getting ahead is getting started. And most of these papers presented today are in line with the emerging trends in computing science. And in computer science today, there are no things better than artificial intelligence, the robotic, whatever, all what has been discussed in these papers. To analyze a little of what has been discussed by, especially the first speaker, Tejumofe Aponja, who discussed about the artificial intelligence, I come to understand that, yes, it is a time or a period in which machine intelligence is about replacing the natural intelligence, which is displayed by humans and other animals. So these are intelligence that is being gradually replaced by machine intelligence. She has taken us step by step, algorithm by algorithm, of how we can be also good front-end developers, isn't it? And I think we come to understand how do we get started and how do we get about to acquire even the application, how do we get about it? So this step by step, I think since we have the papers presented or given to us, I think if we can follow the algorithm, we will be able to also become front-end developers, expert in that area. And I think I want to thank you much purposely for doing that. And there are no better way to teach us how we can step by step begin to implement artificial intelligence in our own little way than how she presented. And the second speaker also discussed about cybersecurity as relative for tremendous inclusion. And you can see that the whole papers are revolving around, even the first session, they are all talking about the same emerging trends that is being discussed. And there are no better thing. He has taught us how we perceive the high-tech profession, how we are undermining the cybersecurity. And in fact, we are paying the consequences today. Most of us that come from the areas where there are a lot of insecurity in the north, we know that cybersecurity will have played a greater role than as it is, because there is no intelligence gathering, no any means of, if only we can use IT. And I think most of the insurgents and bandits that are ravaging the lives and properties of our citizens will have been curtailed. I think these are things that have been discussed by the discussant, and I think these are areas that if only our intelligence organizations can take heed of these papers, I think we'll be able to be somewhere. I don't want to empty all what the discussant will discuss about, and I think he has a lot to discuss about that. And also the last paper also, he has done so much in making sure that the opportunities that are abound, they are yet to be explored, in both our economic and social sectors of our economy. I think if we can go into those areas, we don't need to look for government jobs. There are a lot of money to be made. I think in the last session, someone mentioned that the president, the most richest person in the world, are people who are in the area of information technology. So I think these are areas that we have no other way to say that this is a step forward. For the first time, I think you see very young persons are coming to discuss these emerging trends, which we want our young ones to imbibe. Most of us that are getting older, I think we cannot go into artificial intelligence. So, and I think I want to really discourage, encourage that our young people should imbibe Temitope and other young men, so that we will be able to, in the next few years, will emerge as one of the emerging powers in ICT. So thank you very much. I would like to introduce Mr. Temitope Osundari from Men One Technology. It's a company well known in that area, and he will be the discussor in all these papers. Thank you.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Temitope Osundari, and I would like to put some context around a lot that's been said today, from artificial intelligence to cyber threats to IoT and the many things that are coming. I'm sure some of you know that before, in the early 2000s, before 2010 and upward, internet in Nigeria was frustratingly slow. If you had to go to if you wanted to access the internet, you either had to go use dial-up or go to a cyber cafe and all. And then we had SAT3. We had SAT3 that was a submarine cable that wasn't really working very well. And then we had some private subsea cables come into the country, and then the internet started getting better. Because more people had access to the internet, they were doing a lot more online. There were more businesses now that now developed websites and had maybe a feedback form, or you had emails, or you had one thing or the other. And then all these feedback forms, suddenly there's so much data that businesses have. There's so much data because maybe before you didn't really know what your customers, what they were looking at or what they wanted, but now you had view data. And so that's now came into the whole big data thing, and artificial intelligence is one step further on the technology roadmap. I like Tejumade's definition of artificial intelligence as a system that automates tasks normally performed by humans. And that is what AI is supposed to do. It's supposed to simplify. It's supposed to augment human capacity. It's supposed to enhance us. And it will maniform. So AI is in Nigeria because you see, in the last session, we heard about some banks, some companies that are using AI in terms of chatbots. Stanbic has Sami, UBA has Leo, another bank has Ada. I think that is Diamond. So there's AI coming, but these chatbots they're really the first level, to be honest, of AI. There are more things that AI can do. And I'll talk a little bit about some of this and how AI can enhance inclusion, broadband inclusion. AI will play a very important role in the future. Let's look at transport, for example. So now we've heard of numerous self-driving experiments. There are the Teslas, there are the Ubers, there are the Alphabet Waymo. Every car company that is what its metal is trying to do some form of self-driving. Mercedes-Benz has intelligent drive. We're going to see a lot of that because that's what AI does. And also in terms of even humans, there's going to be the rise in cyber technology where humans are enhanced. So let's say maybe someone, a war veteran has an amputated limb. You can enhance that with AI. You can have someone they can form a robotic limb for such a person. And that is very feasible. It's very feasible. And then you can also augment with memories. You don't want to forget. Maybe you want to have a super fast memory, or you want to have a super retentive memory. Artificial intelligence can actually help enhance that. And then artificial intelligence can assist us in terms of a lot of dangerous, maybe very dangerous jobs. So right now we face terrorist threats in Nigeria. We face Boko Haram, the different militia. What if we have robots that defuse bombs? What if we have robots as soldiers fighting terrorist groups, and we can have some of them doing the worst of work? And then also in agriculture, in healthcare. In healthcare, AI can help us care for our old people, our parents, geriatrics, help them stay healthy. Machine learning can match genomes to treatments and ensure that every person has a specialized treatment for you. And then also it minimizes error in terms of aviation and stuff. Then to put it down in terms of the cyber world and new threats coming up. Cyber attacks are really a misuse of the internet. Considering the fact that we have, I think I mentioned some of the developments in subsea cables. A lot of subsea cables have come into Nigeria, and Nigeria actually has a lot of internet. We have about 10 terabytes at the shores. We have different providers, Main One, Glow One, Watts, and many others, but a lot of this isn't coming in because there's still a dearth of a lack of pervasive digital infrastructure, and I think that was also captured at the last session. There are many issues facing this. There are regulatory issues. The right of way was a very dominant theme in the last session. There are too many taxes. I read an article recently. I read an interview by the Astron president where he said that telcos in Nigeria pay about 450 billion naira annually. That's a lot. That's a huge dip.
Thank you. Please, we would like to take 2 or 3 questions so that all observation, because of the time constraint, and many of our fellows will be going for meeting. Can we find one? Who else? 2? 1, 2, 3. Anyone from this side? Okay, 1, 2, 3. Or 4. We have 4 questions, please. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, please. The first one. So please, you all listen to her.
One, two. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. Agu Collins Agu, Director, Corporate Plan and Strategy of National IT Development Agency, NIDA. Thank you for the wonderful session. Well, in as much as we appreciate AI and some of these emerging technologies, I think it's very, very important for us to identify our peculiarities or uniqueness where these can be applied to solve a particular problem. Every country has challenges. They have their uniqueness and peculiarities. That's number one. So my question goes thus. Currently in Nigeria, we have some challenges somewhere, some places in Nigeria. I'll give a typical example so we can take in that direction. We have this hardest farmers problem now. So the question is, of course I have an answer, and I'm just throwing it openly. How can we use AI, IoT, some of this emerging technology to try to alleviate some of these problems to do with the hardest farmers, clashes we're having? And I feel that this very conference should be addressing such things. We should be able to identify certain problems like flooding, and they have sessions of how we can use technology to solve such challenges. If possible, create a TWG, Technical Working Group. Thank you very much.
Number 2. Yeah. Have you got your... He addressed this question to both IO and... no, until when we get to your questions. Number 2, please.
Good evening, all. My name is Eka Catherine Akpawan. My question is directed to Tejumade Afonja. You talked about AI Saturdays in Lagos. Please, I want to know if that program is also organized in Abuja, when and where.
Okay. Number 3. The third person. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Good day, everyone. My name is Kayode Layinka. I also want to know the particular location for Lagos and how can one be a part of that program. Thank you.
Whose question is that? 2. Okay, number 4. Yeah, number 4. From this side. I think we have to run off because the time. Yeah. No, let's have the last question. Yes?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is John Edache. I also have a question for the first speaker. As regards the field of artificial intelligence, as a way to explain to someone that is trying to come into that field in terms of implementing AI-related solutions, especially looking at one of the trending areas, that's deep learning. How will you be able to explain to someone in simple terms, how can you implement a deep learning related solution? In terms of how can you just tell somebody what is needed to implement an AI related solution? Thank you.
Thank you. Please, we should minimize the time and maybe 1 minute for everyone. And you have the bulk of the questions. And thank you.
Okay, thank you for the questions. I'm going to start with how can we implement deep learning solutions. I mean, you said in simple terms. It's very difficult to explain deep learning in simple terms, but then I'll tell you how you can get started in the sense that you can use deep learning frameworks like TensorFlow. They have examples that are already on their website. So just go there. You don't need to know so much. You just try to run an example and see what it does. Then after then, you can now start to talk about the kind of knowledge you need to be able to build such systems. Like how do you up your game in terms of learning more, like your linear algebra, your calculus, how do you get into programming, learn a bit of Python, what courses do you have to take? I mean, that is what we do at AI Saturdays. We go through structured learning, so to say, and we have a target. For instance, I said the first cycle we ran was from January to April. That was 16 weeks of studies, and we were very, very conscious about what we tried to learn. And afterwards, when we finished that cycle, we started another cycle in August, which I already mentioned that a lot of cities are also joining. I'm very excited about that. And as per Abuja, I'm going to your question. So the best place to get the information for each chapter is to go to nurture.ai/AI-Saturdays. I'll share my slides. It's already there, but then you can also Google it, or you could just check me up on Twitter, Tejo Afonja. I'm always talking about AI Saturdays, and you can buzz me. My DM is always open, so I can answer any question you have. As per AI Saturday Lagos, thankfully, I'm a co-organizer. We are starting in August, and we are actually not just doing one for AI Saturday Lagos, because we have experience with the past one we've done, and we have members who are intermediate, and we also have people who wants to start with us. Those are beginners. So we realized that we need to be able to account for these two kind of people. So we are going to be running 2 different cohorts in August, which we have beginner track and intermediate track. So beginner track will go through from learning your linear algebra to Python to doing a machine learning course. then we'll build projects. I'm always about projects first. We try to think about what we can use this to do. For instance, we have a community project right now, which we call ChowNet. We are trying to gather a lot of data in terms of food data sets, because we know one of the problems of AI is data, and your system is only as good as your data. So if you don't have enough data set, then we're just joking here, actually. So we need to be able to gather those data, and we need to start as a community also do our best to have a system in place to be able to gather such data. So, I mean, you can talk to me, I can say much more. Like, I like talking about AI a lot. I'm sorry.
All right. Evening once again. Regarding issue of AI is also almost equivalent to that of cybersecurity. What can one do in cybersecurity towards building and also raising our reputation? Globally, Nigeria is known for hackers. They are known for Yahoo Yahoo. Why? The skills that is inherent amongst our youth is not effectively utilized, and to that effect, they're using it illegitimately, causing cyber harm, cyber crime, and the rest. So what do we do? How can we mitigate such? We came up with an idea, an initiative to bring together all persons, young, old, professionals, aspiring ones, that want to go into information security. You know how to hack. Do you have the skills? Are you a learner? Are you a script kiddie? Let's come together. We have provided a platform for you, and we converged everybody. We teach them how to hack. First of all, we test them through hacking competition. Winners emerge, and we train them, giving them the right certifications to become ethical, and immediately, right from our programs nationwide, they get instant employment. And this applies not just to young persons, it cuts across different ministries, different agencies, and different persons have actually emanated from this platform. Some have even gained employment into different government ministries via a recruiting process. So it's still a platform that can actually still be harnessed when it comes to cybersecurity inclusion. And the platform is still very much open. You have the skills, you want to learn, you want to be recognized, come, we'll give you the skills, we'll give you the training, and you get the next right job in information security. Thank you.
All right. Quickly, my answer goes to Dr. Collins, Ago Collins from NIDA. In the areas of flooding, I think we've been working with Kogi State government to deploy drones that detect the water levels and report to the relevant authority. And they just started the pilot scheme not up to like 6 months ago. And the Ministry of Agriculture is coordinating that. I think that is one initiative, but innovations, it's currently at infancy level now. So we need to develop more technology to see how we can use AI to solve our local problems. And that of the herdsmen and the locals, their clashes here and there, we've been able to collaborate with the Army Innovation and Transformation Centers. I think they are using their drones now to detect a movement of all these herdsmen. And time to time, you see that they say they've intercepted movement of herdsmen. I think it's an ongoing initiative. For places like Benue State, they're experiencing same problems. I'm from Benue, and we see what we've been able to do in Benue in terms of detection and reporting these incidents. But I think a lot needs to be done in terms of communications of this incidents report to the security agencies, because most times when you escalate incidents like the security agencies, they don't respond as fast as the way they need to respond. The armies, they're trying their best. Some of our members, young startups, are working with them. They're using Google Earth very well to track this movement and interpret them. So.
She said she wants to add something.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just need to talk about funding. And before I talk about that, I can't overstress the fact that we need to build AI talent in Nigeria. We actually, this is a very serious issue where we need to invest in, and that brings me about to funding. Unfortunately, it's very interesting to organize AI Saturdays, but we struggle a lot in terms of finding venue, having the right partners, and having partners for feeding, for internet. And I would really, really like to have more partners to help us with this, to help other chapters across the world as well. So funding is very, very important, and I'm not sure. I just needed to put it out there in case anyone is interested.
Okay, that's okay.
I'm being shameless here. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so about question around AI and agriculture. Yes, AI can definitely impact agriculture. We've talked around AI and the data set, so it analyzes large chunks of data. And I'll quickly reference a study I read online. So a couple of farmers in Tanzania used a Dodo open source library to check for cassava plants that had a particular disease. And they were able to do this by analyzing there were tons of images. I think they had about 2,500 images. They used that to analyze those images to be able to know the different stages of the cassava plants, to be able to know the sort of, and that sort of, it made them identify the different the diseases and the particular disease that this cassava plant had. There was a particular brown leaf spot disease, and you analyzed it to 98% accuracy. And all this is largely because of artificial intelligence. I've also mentioned some other ways that AI impacts different sectors. And I also like to talk around human capacity. Okay, quick one, yes. I'd like to talk around human capacity development. So before this session, Tejumade and I were talking. So she said she started learning coding, and a lot of people here who have learned coding didn't learn in school. They learned maybe on YouTube or via meetups like this. So we need to have a way to revamp our curriculum, to introduce some MOOC courses, to introduce STEM courses into our curriculum, so we can be better prepared for the digital world coming, the digital economy coming. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I want to sincerely thank our audience for your rough attention, in spite of the fact that time is against us. I would also like to thank graciously, especially our discussant, who have analyzed all the data. And in fact, the greater and most profound gratitude goes to the presenters who have done justice. In fact, we have shortened them because they would have gone longer. And in fact, they use the question and answer question to maybe some of them to complete their papers. So please, I know that we are much better than we can. I'm very sure, because most of us, we have learned one or two things. At this juncture, I would like to call the session close, and thank you very much for your attention and for your presentation, for adding knowledge to us. Thank you very much. Mr. Rex.
Okay, do we have the photographers there? Photographer, okay, yeah. So, we just take a picture together. Thank you. Sorry, just few announcements. I'll give you back. Okay, just few announcements for the fellows. the fellows will be meeting now at Premier Hotel, I think. Premier Hotel. State chapter meeting will hold here in this hall by 7 p.m. Tomorrow we expect registration to start by 7 a.m. and it will run till 9 a.m. Then we'll have fellows breakfast meeting. For people from Abuja, the breakfast meeting will be communicated to you via the WhatsApp platform. The venue as well as the time will be communicated. Tomorrow we're going to have we'll have plenary session 2, and it's going to be here in this hall, while the NIT, the National Information Technology Competition, starts tomorrow for both the primary, for both the secondary school as well as the IT software competition. Every other information will be given to you. There is NCS conference app available on the Play Store. You may want to check it out. Just search Nigeria Computer Society on Google Play Store and download it. You can help us make some review of that app. Thank you very much and have a lovely dinner.